Yesterday was yet another bad day for Bethesda, as one of their devs, their story lead Mr. Emil, he tried to take critics to task. He essentially tried to say that if you criticize Starfield, you're wrong because you're not a developer, and therefore you don't understand what goes into their games. You should even just be grateful that Starfield exists. It's a miracle at all that a game gets produced, therefore you should accept a low-quality endeavor. Of course, just about anyone with two brain cells to rub together, they disagreed with him. They called his point nonsense. They acknowledged that he's probably just salty because no one likes his work on the game. His own writing sucks. And these are points that just about everyone agrees with. I say just about because there is this no sodium Starfield Reddit community. This is a place for people who are very upset. They can't handle that their favorite game they've waited so long for, it's getting criticized. They want a hive mind where they can only discuss the game positively, and if you don't agree, you will be banned. These people have been discussing Mr. Emil's comments from yesterday, and they have a slightly different take from everyone else. They think he's very sensible, that he's very justified in saying that you can't criticize a game unless you're a professional developer. That is the only take that is acceptable. And if we have a look here, the top comment, all of the people who try to make games and fail are still accomplishing more than everyone who sits around on social media complaining about them. This is just more of a meal. It is the same argument that you can't criticize games, they're a miracle for existing in the first place, and you're probably sitting in mum's basement. You've got no right to say anything bad. That is just more coping. Most people interested in Bethesda games these days, they're not kids, they're adults. Most of us work jobs, and Bethesda games were a source of great entertainment. For many, it's been years since they've got a proper Bethesda single-player RPG. It's been Fallout 4 back in 2015, and even that probably wasn't the best for most people. So it's been about 8 years since we've experienced what we truly want out of these sorts of titles. And they waited a while for Starfield. Todd Howard with his marketing and his promises, oh, there's going to be 1,000 planets, it's going to be amazing. We understandably expected something great, and we got a game that felt like it was past its use-by date on day one. Most of the people who are interested in this game, they are working professionals, they don't work in games, they probably often work in industries that are much more important than game development, health, other services that we need. And you try to imply their accomplishments mean nothing because they've got nothing to do with games? Get out of here! And here's another one. There are plenty of people who play it and plenty of people who love it or even just like it. Only Microsoft and Bethesda know exactly how many though. Being in the top 10 most played games on Xbox since launch until this week. Even with it being free on Game Pass day one and releasing late in the year, it broke into the top 10 most sold games of the year. I personally believe this game is going to age like a fine wine. Wow, it's going to age like wine. Does anyone think that Starfield is going to be spoken about, played in 3, 5, 10 years in any sort of positive way? It's going to be that game that people remember as the joke, as the punching bag. If we think about colossal failures, it's very similar to, say, Anthem from BioWare. At the time, BioWare was still a studio that people held out hope for. It was an RPG games company. Many people have fond memories of Knights of the Old Republic, the Mass Effect trilogy, Dragon Age Origins. People had some hope for Anthem. Once it released, all of the hype, all of the interest in BioWare, it went away overnight. That studio is seen as a joke now. There is a fourth Dragon Age game supposedly coming, Dragon Age Red Wolf. It's crickets, tumbleweeds. No one cares about the game because the studio fell off a cliff, and that's when interest dies. The same thing is happening with Bethesda. The Elder Scrolls 6, sure, there'll be interest. And there'll be casual fans who never played Starfield, they don't even really know what it is, who will just pre-order Elder Scrolls 6 on name alone. It's sad, but we know it's true. But if Elder Scrolls 6 goes the same way as Starfield, if they totally cock up the exploration, that is going to be it. That will be the final nail in the coffin, even with the normies. Now, something went very wrong here because someone slightly normal has wandered into this community and made a comment. They're certainly going to get banned at any moment. And they say, I mean, in all honesty, I know game design is much more complicated, but players don't really care, referring to Emil's ridiculous comments. They want to play a fun game. We want to play a fun game, not Starfield. We don't want to play a game that's kind of boring and then get told that it's harder than we make it out to be, the development. What he says is correct, however, Starfield lacks features from their own games, and Bethesda just hasn't kept up with the times. The game could have been much more. And then we get the response. Well, I've had over 600 hours of fun playing it, and I still have so many quests left that I can do. It has so many features I've been wanting in a game for ages. I'm a multiverse space demigod who travels around helping people, fighting bad guys, crafting awesome spaceships, modifying my gear and weapons, and I absolutely love it. I do have to wonder with these people because it seems like what they imagine in their heads, it doesn't translate to what's actually going on the screen in the game. It just seems like you could put this person in a box, in a cold, dank cell, and they would tell you they're having fun because they imagine things in their mind that were going on but weren't really a part of reality. This is what these people are doing with Starfield. You're not a demigod, you're a fool inside of a fictional world, and all these adventures, they don't really happen. You're going through loading screens, fast traveling, a mini-map. None of what you're talking about translates into the game, onto the screen that you're looking at. It's all in your head. You've imagined this grand experience, but it doesn't exist. Bethesda didn't put it into the game. You're imagining things. And he goes on to say, does it have warts? Yes, all games do. Does it have room to grow? Yes, of course, all games do. This game is much more, and you don't get to tell me. You don't get to tell me or anyone else whether it is fun or not. This old chestnut, yes, all games can improve. The issue with Starfield is it has no strengths. Even the areas you were referring to, fighting bad guys, crafting, none of those are strengths in the game. Modifying my gear and weapons, there's literally like 3 unique guns in Starfield. It might look like there's heaps, but there's only 3 different ways of guns actually mechanically working. It's all an illusion, and the melee combat, that is atrocious. What are they going to do in the Elder Scrolls 6? You can say if it's fun for you or not, and if this isn't the game for you, then find the game that is. If you want them to add stuff to it, here's the suggestion box. What, so they can wipe their ass with our feedback, which is what they've been doing all of this time? We tried to make our feedback heard. Look at the Steam reviews, mixed, down from very positive. And you can bet money that the reviews on Steam that were the thumbs up, most of them were made when there was still hype for the game. Before it released, people were positive. They wanted to like Starfield. They didn't set out to hate it. And a lot of people jumped in, immediately gave it a positive review because it wasn't completely broken, for instance. But as time went on, reality set in, people realized that they wasted their money and reviews have been going down. So people have been telling Bethesda. But instead of taking that feedback on board, they've been arguing with us. They've been replying back, dismissing it, you're playing the game wrong. Even this very comment that you're making, it refers to a post where the dev said that criticism isn't valid because we're not game developers. What are you talking about? We're not going to waste our time with a suggestion box. Get out of here.
Now, if you don't mind, I'm tracking down another snow globe for my collection while I let Sarah ruminate on her past until I'm ready to help her work through it. I hope you find a game you like.
Yeah, mate, I think you're living in a snow globe. The only way you could have fun with this and live in this deluded world is if you're in some sort of asylum. You're in your own snow globe, like that Newhart sitcom, I think it was. I've never seen it, but I've heard about it. This person gets even more deluded. They have kept with the times, evolving a Bethesda game. I'm gonna have to translate, this person's illiterate. All these outdated style posts are just a way of saying, I like non-Bethesda style games. What? Starfield is not like other Bethesda games. The issue people have is that it isn't like a Skyrim, that you can't explore a grand world. They've totally changed it. They've lost all their strengths. Trying to cope and act like, oh, people just wanted a different style of game. But this is Bethesda. They make their own unique style of RPGs. The uniqueness is gone. That's where the anger's coming from, because we got this turd instead of a traditional Bethesda RPG. We lost something. We lost a potential Elder Scrolls 6. A potential Fallout 5 that is similar to a Morrowind or Fallout 3. Instead, we got Starfield.
Why doesn't Bethesda make a non-Bethesda game for me? To which I say no. I want a Bethesda-style game from Bethesda.
Well, you must be feeling pretty let down, because Starfield is anything but that. It is not a traditional Bethesda game. I feel sorry for you. You must be feeling pretty down.
If I wanted a BioWare game, I'd play a BioWare game.
No, you wouldn't. Their games are pretty shit now, let's be real. This last one is something special, because this community, pretty much anyone who's positive about Starfield, they claim that they just want to have fun playing it and they're sick of the haters, but these people literally have PTSD around Starfield hate, and if they even catch a whiff of anyone saying anything slightly negative, anything constructive, they fly into a panic. So these people got into an argument about Cyberpunk and how it was a letdown, and they're referring to Cyberpunk here when they say, with Cyberpunk, they fixed some stuff, but the game isn't even close to what they promised for years. They literally said that Cyberpunk would be a Bethesda-style game. What are you talking about? Where you can roleplay as corpse, trauma teams, gangs, basically live whatever life you want. What sort of world are you living in? No one thought Cyberpunk was going to be like a Bethesda game. They might have thought it was going to be like a GTA. When did Bethesda come into it? Jesus. And he goes on to say, none of that Bethesda stuff is in the game, lol. Ironically, Starfield actually allows you to do a lot of what Cyberpunk promised. It's absurd. What? Imagine trying to pretend that Starfield is more reactive than Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk's a pretty good game now. Starfield is never going to get there. It's impossible. But that isn't even the best bit, because someone responds to him, and he is clearly shitting on Cyberpunk. He's trying to prop up Starfield here. It's a pro-Starfield post. But this person says, oh well, I still like it and feel like I got my money's worth already. But he's referring to Starfield, so he's got super defensive, super upset, thinking that person was shitting on Starfield. But they weren't. They were trying to prop it up. And the person defends themselves. This is that same person who was defending Starfield, trying to say it does things that Cyberpunk couldn't. And he says, me too. I'm just saying people are giving Bethesda shit and forgiving a lot with Cyberpunk. It's not even close to what they said it'll be, and it will never be. And that other upset person says, oh, I see, I honestly misread your comment and thought you had a less reasonable take than you actually did. So he was melting down, getting upset. He thought, no, someone is criticizing Starfield, even when they weren't. These people are looking for problems. This goes for most people who are pro-Starfield. They pretend that they're reasonable. They just want to have fun. Everyone's wrecking it. But really, they are super mad. They catch a whiff of anyone criticizing their magnum opus, their dream game, and you must be stopped. Thanks so much for listening. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Bye.